Good morning, evening, afternoon. I'm Turtle Cat. Welcome to my channel. Today we are playing Esoteric. Previously, I basically just talked to this dude. Apple bottom jeans. It's not his name, but this he's like a psychologist or something like that, and he is a joke teller of, I guess. Then yeah, we are interrogating him. Well, we're not interrogating. We're questioning him to see if he knows anything about the tea shop. And that's pretty much where we left off. Can you give me some mind healing? I don't need mind healing. I want to inquire about the folk spirit. You are an expert in alignment, huh? How does death and resurrection work with all this stuff? Why don't you use magic in your mind healing? What is love? Baby, don't hurt me. Don't hurt me no more. What do you know about the tea shop? The one that exploded? Who are you voting for in the election? Are you you're Appledent, right? Give me your thoughts on the Clanland ordeal. I have some personal questions for you. That's all for now. Thank you, citizen. Leave. Yeah, I want to ask about the tea shop first, because last time I talked to a person, I didn't ask about the tea shop. I got a potion, which is cool, but I didn't get any information. So, first and foremost, I will ask about this tea shop that I have yet to locate. Oh, horrific. He gestures wildly towards the rocky wall. Shit started shaking. It was as if the red rock of Tolstad itself was cracking. For half a second or so. So you were down here when it happened? Did you go check it out? You hear anything about it? Rumors? What do you think happened? I got some other questions. So were you down here when it happened? Yes. I think I was asleep. The sound woke me. Did you go check it out? No. Someone told me later what it was like. I have work to do here. You hear anything about it? Rumors? You should not believe rumors, cleric. Listen, I got nothing but rumors, so tell me the rumors. But yes, I did hear some nasty stuff. Some people seem to think the owner did it himself, since he is missing. Some others think the city did it, since they printed a clear lie in the post. I've also heard people say the Asgalists are responsible, since it was their hideout. Or that the Free Striders did it for the same reason, blowing up Asgalist opposition and so on. I have experience points. It's all bullshit, of course. Don't believe rumors. What do you think happened? He shrugs. Violently? He violently shrugs? I got some other questions. Good. I want to inquire about this folk spirit. Imagine, if you will, the origin of our stories. All stories? Yes, all stories. All of them. As sentient folk, we clearly have the basic ability to come up with the random ideas and turn them into emotionally resonant tales. Tales that explore the condition of life itself and make us feel many things. Except for me, I don't have feelings. I decided my character's a psychopath. But an interesting thing happens if one were to study the core parts of these stories. That's why my wisdom empathy thing is so dumb. Even if we look at stories crafted entirely in different bands, separate isolated tribes, even the world outside Jor itself, there's overlay. Stay quiet. Humans who live in the remote mountains of Yim have the same repeated tropes in their foundational myths as humans in reeds. Same for halflings. The stormbloods of Gargamesh have the same variations as my people in Fortnite, despite being separated in esoteric evolution by at least 10 millennia. It's as if every folk is haunted by spirit, like an unconscious collective dream of concepts and ideas that follow us. Even when those separate folk originate from entirely different worlds, could you imagine? Two folk arrive through two separate gates of Jor. They are alien to one another culturally, spiritually, biologically, yet they share those core myths. That is what I'm studying. Don't let him rant anymore, please. That is very interesting. I'm not sure I understand. That's stupid. I have no idea what you're talking about. That is very interesting. Isn't it? Most importantly, it's provable. How's it provable? Is there a folk spirit that's better than the others? What happens when two folk types merge? I think I understand. Move on. How's it provable? Reproducibility analysis. Cultures and folk who had no contact with one another, even originating from different worlds, both have the same core myths. Narrative traits, archetypes, repeated tropes. It's the same method used when uncovering ancient dead languages, using common denominators to narrow down similarities and differences. He adjusts his mustache. Now, there hasn't been that much reproducibility yet from my peers. I'm still working on getting other scholars in on this topic. Is there a folk spirit that's better than the others? Better means nothing. There's so much weight put onto making one greater in some perspective than others. It's just a ridiculous game of dick swinging. I feel like somewhere that is a game. Of course, I also hate this horrible idea that every culture is amazing and wonderful and, you know, everyone is holding hands and dancing together. No. Unified experience, but every culture is equally terrible. That's fair. That's fair. I get that. That they all specialize. These symbols we produce are clothed in meaning based on lived experiences. A human living in the frozen tundra will derive and require much different practical uses of those core myths than a man living in the harsh desert. Yet each folk type has its own fundamental traits that these symbols represent. You talk a lot. That's very interesting. It is a lot of junk with some nuggets of gold. That's much, I will say. What will happen if two folk types merge? Ah, yes. He lifts a finger. No clue. It is even harder to pinpoint due to the nature of merging cultures. In cases like humans and dwarves, here in Norfolk, there's more data, but not enough to say anything of note. But it seems to me like folk spirit remains pure in sense, in one direction or the other. For example, humans can obviously reproduce with dwarves, but the offspring is always aesthetically and biologically speaking very human, which does not make sense biologically. We are, scientifically speaking, different species. Dogs do not breed with cats, do they? The same effect can be seen in most functional folk mix breeding. Logically, it should not be. Evolutionarily, adaptation dictates the creation of mixture, not a one-sided creature, so it is theorized to be some type of powerful esoteric effect that allows this reproduction to take place. In the scholarly community, we call it the OSO effect, the one-sided offspring. You know a lot about this topic, huh? So one side is always dominant, huh? But does that mean the dwarves would eventually stop existing in Norfolk and just become human? And you think the folk spirit follows the one-sided offspring? But does that mean the dwarves would eventually stop existing in Norfolk and just become human? That's a good question. If two people live alongside one another for a long enough time and they reproduce with one another equally, but the offsprings are all aesthetically human, then yes. Eventually there would only be one people, and it would be a people who look human. However, there's a big factor in charge here. That is the elusive and enticing topic of meeting preferences. There is not much proven data I can point to, but if you allow me to speculate, then I would say only a minority of the population of any tribe will ever have a strict preference for a meeting outside of that tribe. Without basic assumption like that, I do not believe the tribe itself would remain intact enough for civilization to emerge. So, in the case of dwarves in Norfolk, I do not believe the two tribes can ever truly merge. Cooperate? Yes. Cohabitate? Of course. Even mingle and date and crossbreed? Absolutely. Why not? But merge? No. Impossible. Of course, this assumption ignores the OSO effect, so it feels a bit crackpotty. Take it as you wish. You seem to know a lot about this topic, huh? Once again, I'm afraid this is all coming from experiments performed by arcanists. Horrifically so. Oh, fun. Of course. So one side is always dominant, huh? Not biologically speaking, but esoterically. Yes, subjectively so. There's a list of hierarchy in some textbooks, but it's a pretty taboo topic, as you might imagine. And you think the folk spirit follows the one-sided offspring? Maybe. I've not done enough work to say anything for sure. Nor have I been peer-reviewed. Nor am I a very sane or stable individual. I deserve more than 5 experience points for that. I think I understand now. The goblin crosses his arms, ready to hear your comment. The halfling scholar leans back in his armchair. I think you're crazy. I think you got something cool cooking here. I think your theory needs a lot of work. I think your rant about breeding was very conspiratorial. I don't have any strong opinions. I mean, it does, parts of it are interesting. Yeah, like that across cultures that like don't connect really still have the same archetypes in their stories and their myths. That's like a very true thing. So like even cultures that don't actually meet, that is a thing that does happen. The whole esoteric thing is basically, but the whole well, we're technically different species, so we shouldn't be able to breathe. That's an interesting thought process that one never really thinks about. Like, but I guess you're humanoid, so like that could make sense. For example, like dogs and coyotes can mate. So, like, that can create an offspring. So maybe the people, like dwarves and humans and stuff, are more related in that sense, rather than a whole different thing like dog and cat. But I don't like the way that this is worded. I think you got something cool cooking here. I feel like I want to say it in a smarter way, but that's not an option. My options are, I mean, the theory does need a lot of work. Because he doesn't have things proven, and he doesn't have enough tests. But I think he has something cool cooking. Oh, do you? Yes! He gives you a quick nod. I would not spend my old age here if I did not agree in some deep sense. He sniffs. I gained 5 experience. Thank you for listening to my rant, cleric. Stop calling me a cleric, though. I mean, I know I am a cleric. You as well, my goblin friend. You're welcome. You're an expert in alignment, huh? Somewhat. I wrote my masterpiece on the subject. I love a guy who's like I'm not sane. But look at him. And also, it's like, yes, I'm this doctor who does all this work. And also it's bullshit. Complete fucking bullshit. But like, this is my work. And it's bullshit. I respect that. Somewhat, I wrote my masterpiece on the subject. That should account for somewhat of an understanding on the subject, but not enough. Never enough. Oh, sorry. That should account for somewhat of an understanding on the subject, but not enough. Never enough. He sniffs. Can you change your alignment? What does good mean? What does evil mean? What does chaotic mean? What does lawful mean? Why? 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 I'm that kid. There's so many questions. I'm afraid this whole episode is just going to be me asking this guy questions because I really want to know these things. And the whole day, it's already it's almost 2 o'clock. Can you change your alignment? Of course. Any creature is capable of leaning in the axis, depending on their day-to-day actions. Oh, just like that. So so devils are just lazy then? Who decides what's what? You mean the parameters of good and evil? Yeah. Then you have asked that question. Look. Like all things, it's messy. Let's say you're lawful evil. I'm not. I am. Okay. You find that being labeled as evil is bad for your business or your work prospects, as one might. Yes, of course. And nobody will vote for me. Not that I care about their vote, because I would try to take it by force. I don't know if I can do that, but I feel like my character thinks they can do that. They're like, even if I don't win this vote, then I will bide my time and eventually take it by force. You find that being labeled bad as one might be. So you choose to donate a large sum of money to a charity that will inevitably help thousands. You might even save some lives with those spent coin. But he said I was evil. I'm such a good guy. Let him continue. In this case, you've performed an objectively good, selfless action for evil, selfish reasons. So what happens next? He points at you. Nothing. Nothing, but I did a good thing. No, I technically did a good thing, but I did a good thing for the wrong reasons. So it balances itself out. You remain lawful evil. But let's change the parameters. Instead, you are a lawful evil man who genuinely wishes to repent to pay for the many evil things you've done in your life before. If this man performs a selfless act with the intention of selflessness, then all of a sudden there will begin a shift in his alignment. Intention is all that matters. What if the outcome is really, really big? Oh. Intention is all that matters? Yes. This effect has obviously been studied for centuries. It's aptly named alignment intent studies. I personally received my scholarship through studying delusional intent. We gather large amounts of very mentally unwell people, mostly from local prisons and post-war reads, who truly believed in very different worldview than most others. For example, this one man was certain that he had to kill his fellow man, or the world would end, one murder a week. An extreme delusion, however, any detection spell showed him to be neutral good, and he felt terrible about all the murders he had committed. He was not selfish. In fact, he was more selfless than most, willing to perform acts that horrified him in order to save us all. The objective outcome of his actions mattered not, no more than the outcome of the actions of a person under a charm spell. So, you're not smart enough to understand your actions. How do you end up at your alignment to begin with? Are you born with it? What's the difference between alignment and personality? Wait, does that mean everything I do is branded as good, evil, chaotic, lawful? Even this, what I'm saying right now. So, you can will yourself into changing your alignment? I made my decision. Move on. How do you end up with your alignment to begin with? Are you born with it? No. All creatures are born true neutral. And all reported metrics show babies are unable to perform alignment shifts until the age of about 3 to 7, depending on the folk. But interestingly enough, it's shown that most people will only perform 1 or 2 alignment shifts in their entire lifetime. He scratches his cheek and sniffs a couple of times during adolescence. After that, less than 1/10 of the folk will ever shift again. That is fairly substantially verified data as well. So essentially, despite having free will, folk will always lean towards the natural behavior over time. What's the difference between alignment and personalities? Studies on personality show that there is overlap. Conscientious folk tend to be more lawful. Neurotic and open folk tend to be more good to a minor degree. But we're talking about still unverified and very minor correlation. Wait, does that mean everything I do is branded as good, evil, chaotic, or lawful? Even this, what I'm seeing right now? In some small sense, yes. The very act of speaking, no matter what you say, will always give you very, very small points in any direction. Although, could you imagine trying to keep track of it all? It would be insane. I got a hit point, but I already have 13 hit points. That's silly. So no person would ever go to such things. No need to keep track of stuff like that. It will only drive you mad. So what if you're not smart enough to understand your action? That is what we call the sentience line. It's not attack. Animals, for example, are true neutral by default. Any of that is not a pure beast, but rather affected by esoteric forces on some level. That's the theory, at least. But imagine a man who loses enough of his mental faculties to be considered a beast, no longer living in a world of good or evil. Let's say he was chaotic good before, and what happened to his alignment? Does he suddenly turn true neutral? Is he stuck in at a chaotic good, or does he somehow slide towards true neutral? Because that's another thing. There is no known way to perform a neutral action. All actions are either some level of selfish, some level of selfless, lawful, or chaotic. On a wide spectrum. But you can never just move towards the center. It's not allowed. So you will yourself into changing your alignment? In theory, yes. So we're slaves to our nature? On a broad scale, when looking at data, yes. But it was Cividex who wrote, "There is no honor in branding a naturally selfless man as good. There is all honor in selfish monster receiving the same title. Remember that." Alright, I've made my decision. Okay. Well, we didn't even get to ask him all the questions, and that was the whole episode. There's so much stuff to talk to him about. Oh my goodness. Well, we'll continue talking to him in the next episode. See you next time.